What's up, community? Welcome to the No Bull Podcast, or welcome back to the No Bull Podcast. I'm your host, Brianna Bull, and I'm bringing you everything basketball. Okay, so we have a championship to discuss. Championship game. All right, so look, chat already heating up. Welcome, Dame. Glad you are here. Dame said, yo, man, I can't believe the Lynx. Just no way. And we are for sure going to talk about their drought because they had an offensive drought that was just kind of unbelievable, in my opinion. It was almost like every basket was like in and out, rimmed in and out. It was crazy. So we're going to talk about it. Pretty much that's all we're going to talk about today is the Commissioner Cup. There's no games on tonight. There'll be 2 games on tomorrow. And then we'll also talk about the NBA free agency updates. We did a lot of that yesterday, like a full in-depth going through the free agency tracker. But the NBA dropped like an article. So we'll cover that and talk some arrivals and departures. But I just want to say a special shout out to everyone who's been supporting me. Again, like, I love you, I appreciate you, I'm grateful for you. I've been getting some comments, and I'm not gonna lie, like, somebody wrote a comment like earlier today on one of my streams, and it was like a book. I don't know what they were talking about. Like, I didn't even read it, I'll be honest with you. So I've been noticing just some very odd comments here and there, but you know, it comes with the territory and the space. So I just been praying to the Lord, like, Lord, please, like, make sure I have forgiveness and grace and understanding, and that I'm patient, and that, like, there's both sides to this, right? There's positive people who just love talking about the game, and then there's like negative people who want to like just be mean and, you know, nasty as they possibly can when it comes to basketball and what they know, you know, instead of just having a conversation, they want to put you down. So I just been praying like that I continue to like move forward, push past that, and I don't let that impact anything that I have going on here in this space. Because again, it's just about the passion and the love for the game. Okay, basketball taught me how to love, so I made a channel about it. And but the people who've been here, I appreciate you, and I just look forward to what today is going to bring for us. Okay, so the Indiana Fever are the 2025 Commissioner Cup champions, and let's just say I'm not surprised, but yesterday I did not expect the game that I saw from the Minnesota Lynx. But I said yesterday that the Indiana Fever typically shows up really well against the best teams in the league. We saw it with the Seattle Storm, and we see it here with the Minnesota Lynx. So, yeah, I'm not completely, like, I'm not shocked or surprised, but I kind of knew this was going to happen, but I was hoping for a better game from the Minnesota Lynx. But last night, the Indiana Fever made a major statement, winning their first ever Commissioner Cup championship, and they did it without Caitlin Clark on the floor. But we're not going to call this a fluke because Indiana has been locked in defensively. They held the Lynx to their lowest shooting night of the season. And we're going to cover those numbers. I believe it was like 36%, 37%. But they completely flipped the game in the second quarter, going on a brutal 18-0 run. Natasha Howard showed up big with a double-double and took home MVP honors, while the entire Fever squad stepped up in Clark's absence. And we'll talk about Ariel McDonald. We'll talk about Kelsey Mitchell, obviously, and Sophie Cunningham, who dominated off the bench. And then as for the Lynx, the league's top team just could not get it going. Shots weren't falling, the rhythm was off, and they just never recovered. And even defensively, you could just tell they were not themselves. But we were excited for the Indiana Fever nonetheless. You know, we're excited for Indiana because they they're a great team. There's no way around that. Their record does not, in my opinion, reflect how great of a team that they are. And so we'll get into that standings and stuff. They're still top 8. They're number 8 in the conference overall, and you need to be top 8 in order to make the playoffs. So, let us talk about, while we talk about it, I'm obviously going to pull up the highlights. I do have a different camera angle this time. So I just figured like maybe you'd want to see the game a little bit more than my face. So we're going to do that. I'm going to press play, and then while this is playing, we are going to just run through some stats, key highlights, etc. So this was at the Target Center, I believe. It definitely was a mixture of crowd, but mostly, obviously, Minnesota Lynx fans were there. It was a quiet crowd, like darn near the whole game. We had high hopes for them. They started off like on a 12-0 run against the Fever. And that backdoor cut you just saw, you're going to see a lot more of that. Okay, that was one area that the Minnesota Lynx could not make adjustments on. They fell short on making adjustments defensively, and it was very surprising. They also got out rebounded. But before we get into that, let us. What's up, Move Peace? Welcome to the chat. Okay, let me get my notes going here. Okay, so how did the Indiana Fever manage to take over this game? Defensive dominance, I would say, was their key driver. They managed to hold Minnesota scoreless for the final 7 minutes and 56 seconds of the second quarter. Oh, so let me come back here real quick. Let me come back here. Scoreless. Okay. And like I said, they had an 18-0 run in the second quarter. Now, they also, on the offensive end, their offense was way more balanced than the Minnesota Lynx offense, with 4 out of their 5 starters scoring in double digits, Indiana Fever. And then off the bench, you had Sophie Cunningham coming off extremely explosive. She had 13 points, 4 for 6 from the field goal, 3 for 5 from the 3-point line. And they shot overall 42% from the 3-point line last night, the Indiana Fever, with Sydney Collison contributing a 3, Lexi Hall was 2 for 3, and then Ari McDonald was 2 for 3. Now, Kelsey Mitchell was 0 for 5 from the 3, but that did not stop her scoring-wise. She still managed to notch 12 points, shooting 6 for 16 from the field goal. So she had some really big pull-up jumpers, like I said, backdoor cuts. She was everywhere on the floor, moving without the ball, and that was obviously helpful for this Indiana Fever game. Before we get to Natasha Howard, the Cup MVP, we're going to talk about Aaliyah Boston, who had a double-double. She had 12 points, 11 rebounds. She shot 5 for 15 from the field, and she notched 6 assists. Now, despite that impressive stat line, Natasha Howard did manage to come through. She was 8 for 8 from the free throw line. I want to call that out. She was amazing. They could not stop her in the paint. She drew a lot of fouls. She was 4 for 10 from the field, so she shot 40% from the field goal, but she scored 16 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. So both of those ladies, Aaliyah Boston, Natasha Howard, had a double-double, and see, there goes another backdoor cut. Again, you just see this offensive cohesion from the Indiana Fever without Caitlin Clark. I just think it is super impressive how they have this ability to create shots just off of off-ball movement. Okay, there was at one point in the second half, there was a backdoor cut from the Indiana Fever that Aaliyah Boston, she finds herself at that free throw line. The backdoor cut wasn't there, but boom, she hit Sophie Cunningham on the side for a 3. So, I mean, They were just creating space for each other. That it was flowing, it was jiving, and Minnesota just could not keep up. Now, I will say that the refs, they were a little questionable last night, okay? I'm not going to lie. They were questionable. Let's see. Now, let's talk about how the Minnesota Lynx fell short. They had a huge offensive drought. Like, we could talk about how Indiana Fever held them, but there was a lot of opportunity for the Minnesota Lynx that they had open looks and they just would not drop. Their poor shooting percentage, they shot 34.9% from the field and 25% from the three. It was a really bad shooting night for them. And their bench was like non-existent. Only 3 out of their 5 starters scored. Bridget Carlton went scoreless, and she only took 1 3. So yes, that contributes to Indiana's ability to secure the perimeter. But I mean, 1 3? You only could get off 1 3. You played 27 minutes. It was rough. Nafisha Collier, Nafisha shot 6 for 18. She had 12 points, 5 turnovers. And Courtney Williams had 6 turnovers. So their top 2 primary offensive generals, drivers, they had a terrible game. It was rough for them. Now, number 2, Natasha Howard, she played 16 minutes off the bench. I was not impressed with her play style. I think 16 minutes was a little bit too much. And I don't know if it's because Courtney Williams wasn't doing that well. There was at one point they were on at the same time, but for the most part, they're on the court right now together. But she was they shifted Courtney Williams to the 2 and let Natasha run the 1. And I just didn't agree with that adjustment at all. I did not like Natasha's game. I was not impressed with her. But Jessica Shepard, she had 14 points. She was 4 for 4 from the field goal with 9 points. So it was rough. I do want to point a shout out to Elena Smith. She held them down. She was 3 for 7 from the 3. It was at one point she was hitting threes towards the end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th, and you're like, okay, we got some hope for Minnesota here, but it just was not enough. It wasn't enough. Here we are, 6 minutes left in the 4th quarter. It's 58-45. Courtney Williams to Bridget Carlson spin. I mean, that's not Bridget Carlson. That was Kayla Shepard. Sorry, that was Jessica Shepard. Kayla McBride also struggled from offense. Sorry, sometimes they do be looking alike on the court. I apologize. They don't look alike, but they look alike. My fault. Okay. Woo. Let's see. Look how easy that was to get by Nafisha. Since when does Nafisha get blown by like that? By Sophie Cunningham? Come on. Courtney Williams drives in, pull up. Here it's 60-51. 4 minutes left in the 4th quarter. We see Kelsey Mitchell passed it off. Sophie hit the 3. It was rough. And it was a very low-scoring game all across the board. I think the game ended up, 71-59? Yeah, 74-59. So, with 3 minutes left, Minnesota only scores 3 more points. That's bad. Aaliyah was having her way with Nafisha. And they got into a little scrap, dude. They got into a little argument during the game for real. They was talking back and forth. Now they both were mic'd up, but we did not manage to get that audio. Aaliyah Boston and Nafisha were both mic'd up, but we did not see their audio. Let me look and see what the chat has said. Oh wow. Okay. Looks like it says my stream stopped. Say stream suspended for policy violations. Damn.